There's a lie that high-performing people tell themselves. A lie that looks like discipline, sounds like ambition, and gets praised by almost everyone around them. Perfectionism. People think perfectionism means you care more, that you're more dedicated, more responsible, more committed to excellence. But what if perfectionism isn't discipline at all? What if it's fear? Not the obvious kind, the quiet kind, the invisible kind, the kind that hides behind achievement. Because the truth is, most perfectionists are not trying to be perfect. They're trying not to be rejected. And once you see this, you can't unsee it. Because perfectionism isn't really about getting things right. It's about avoiding the moment someone sees you getting it wrong. And that changes everything. Perfectionism isn't about excellence. It's about emotional protection. But the real question is this: why does making a mistake feel so threatening that your brain treats it like danger? To understand that, we need to talk about something most people never connect to perfectionism: your childhood. The invisible problem. Perfectionism has one of the best PR campaigns in history. Society celebrates it. Teachers reward it. Bosses promote it. Friends admire it. The perfectionist becomes the reliable one, the one who never messes up, the one who always delivers. But behind the scenes, something very different is happening, because perfectionism rarely feels empowering. It feels exhausting. Your mind never rests. You replay conversations. You rewrite messages. You review your work again and again and again, even after it's already good, but it never feels good enough. And sometimes the pressure becomes so intense, you procrastinate, which seems ironic, but perfectionists procrastinate more than most people. Why? Because starting something means risking imperfection, and imperfection feels dangerous. Perfectionists don't delay because they're lazy. They delay because they're terrified. Terrified of judgment, terrified of failure, terrified of confirming a secret fear they carry inside, the fear that maybe they're not enough. But where does that fear come from? For many people, the answer started a long time ago. Psychological discovery. Children learn something very early in life, not through lectures, through emotional experiences. They learn when they feel safe and when they don't. Some children grow up feeling loved simply for existing, but others learn something different. They learn that love becomes stronger when they perform, when they behave well, when they get good grades, when they make their parents proud. And slowly, a quiet belief forms, a belief that sounds like this: if I do well, I am worthy. But the hidden message is more dangerous. If I fail, I might lose love. A child doesn't analyze this consciously. Their nervous system simply learns. Performance equals safety. Mistakes equal risk. You can see this pattern in a very simple moment. Imagine a child walking into the kitchen holding a test. He scored 98 out of 100. He's proud. He hands it to his parent. The parent looks at it for a second and says, 98? That's good. But what happened to the other 2 points? The parent doesn't mean harm, but the child's brain records something important. Not the praise, the correction. And in that moment, a quiet belief begins forming. Being good is not enough. Almost perfect is still a problem. And without realizing it, that child may spend the next 20 years of their life trying to earn those missing 2 points. So the brain develops a strategy. Control everything, work harder, avoid errors, be perfect. For many perfectionists, excellence was never the goal. Safety was. But here's the twist most people never realize. That strategy works when you're a child, but when you become an adult, it starts quietly sabotaging your life. Personal recognition loop. If you're a perfectionist, some of these might feel familiar. You spend 30 minutes writing a message, then delete it. Maybe you've experienced something like this. You write an email to your boss, a normal email, nothing dramatic. But before sending it, you read it again and again. Then you change one sentence, then another. You remove a word that suddenly feels wrong. 10 minutes pass, 20, 30. At some point, you realize something strange. You're no longer improving the email. You're trying to remove the possibility that someone might judge you. And that's when perfectionism quietly takes control. Not to make things better, but to make criticism impossible. Rewrite it, and still hesitate before sending. You review your work 10 times before sharing it, not because it's bad, but because you imagine someone spotting a flaw. You want to start something new, a project, a business, a creative idea. But the moment you imagine doing it imperfectly, your motivation disappears. You tell yourself you'll start when you're ready, but ready never arrives because perfection has no finish line. Perfectionism creates a game where the rules guarantee you always lose. Even success doesn't feel safe. You achieve something and immediately raise the bar again. Because if your value comes from performance, then resting feels dangerous. And slowly, your identity becomes tied to one thing: achievement, which leads to a powerful psychological trap. Identity built on performance. Many perfectionists don't just do well, they are the one who does well. It becomes their identity. The responsible one, the smart one, the capable one. But when identity is built on performance, failure stops being an event. It becomes a threat to who you are, and that's when anxiety appears. Because now every task carries emotional weight. A presentation isn't just a presentation, it's proof of your worth. A mistake isn't just a mistake, it feels like exposure. When your identity depends on performance, every imperfection feels like a personal attack. And your nervous system reacts accordingly. Your brain releases stress hormones. Your body enters survival mode. Not because the situation is dangerous, but because your mind learned long ago that mistakes are. But the deepest truth about perfectionism is still hidden. And once you see it, everything changes. The hidden fear. Most perfectionists think their biggest fear is failure. It isn't. Their biggest fear is exposure. Exposure of something they secretly believe about themselves, that they're not as capable as people think, that eventually someone will find out. This is why perfectionism and imposter syndrome are so connected. You push yourself to impossible standards because you're trying to silence a voice inside that whispers, "You're not enough." But here's the painful irony. Perfectionism doesn't silence that voice, it feeds it. Because the more perfect you try to be, the more terrified you become of any imperfection. Perfectionism promises safety, but secretly multiplies fear. And the cost becomes enormous. Creativity disappears, spontaneity disappears, joy disappears, all replaced by pressure. But there is one deeper emotional truth most perfectionists never realize. The deep emotional truth. Perfectionism often begins as a shield against criticism, against embarrassment, against rejection. But over time, that shield becomes a prison. Because perfectionists don't just fear judgment from others, they become their own harshest judge. Every mistake becomes evidence that the inner critic was right all along. And that voice becomes relentless. You should have done better. You should know this already. You can't mess this up. But here's the truth that changes everything. You were never chasing perfection. You were chasing acceptance. And here's the part that most perfectionists never see. The trait people admire in you the most might have been born from the moment you felt the least accepted. The discipline, the overthinking, the constant self-correction. They look like strengths, but sometimes they started as protection. Protection from criticism, protection from embarrassment, protection from feeling not enough. Which means something surprising. Your perfectionism might not be proof of how strong you are. It might be evidence of how deeply you once felt unsafe. You were never chasing excellence. You were chasing approval. And once you understand that, you realize something powerful. You don't need perfection. You need freedom.
Spiritual reflection, identity. There's a reason perfectionism feels so heavy, because humans were never designed to carry their worth through performance. In the biblical perspective, human value was never earned, it was given. Before achievement, before success, before proving anything, identity came first, performance came later. But perfectionism reverses that order. It says, you are what you accomplish. But a deeper spiritual truth says something different. Your value doesn't increase when you succeed, and it doesn't disappear when you fail. Because identity isn't something you build through flawless performance, it's something you receive. And when that truth sinks in, perfection loses its grip.
Identity reframe. Imagine approaching life differently, not asking, how do I avoid mistakes, but asking, what could I learn if I allowed imperfection? Because growth requires experimentation, and experimentation requires mistakes. The most creative people in the world fail constantly. The difference is, they don't attach their identity to the outcome. Perfectionists try to avoid failure, but the people who change the world, they use failure as fuel, which leads to a powerful shift. You stop trying to look flawless and start trying to become real. Memorable closing. So, if perfectionism has been running your life, maybe the goal was never to become flawless. Maybe the goal was to finally feel safe being seen. Seen while learning, seen while trying, seen while imperfect. Because the truth is, perfection might impress people, but it will never give you peace. And the freedom you're looking for doesn't come from doing everything right. It comes from realizing you were never required to be perfect to be worthy. If this video resonated with you, share it with someone who might need this reminder. Because somewhere out there, someone is exhausting themselves trying to earn a value they already have.